okay, or,
We can hear you, Jessica.
okay, thank you.
Okay,
A
Recording
little
now.
less talk.
okay. We're now recording, so I will again call this meeting to order, and now it's approximately 7:03 PM. September 5th, Development Review Board. We have determined there is a quorum. I'll state the names again: Katrina, Kendall, Linda, Sarah, Krista, and Jamie, and Jessica via Zoom. I just want to let everyone know that again, the agenda is available online and copies are in the back of the room. The meeting has been publicly posted and is being recorded and subject to open meeting law and DRB rules of procedure. I welcome everybody who is here tonight for joining us and remind anyone joining us online that the chat function should only be used for technical issues or difficulties. And the city offers online access as a convenience, and we will continue the meeting if difficulties occur. Whether you are online or in the room, please raise your hand if you want to be recognized, and I will ask you to raise your hand and remain muted. Everyone on Zoom is to remain muted until called upon.
Okay, thank you.
And those in the room will be called upon to come forward and speak into the microphone so everyone on the recording can hear you. And I will call on speakers in order, allowing those who haven't spoken yet to speak first so that we can get through the agenda. If you have any questions on the process or procedure, please ask and we'll get it sorted out for you. Adjustments to the agenda. Are there any adjustments to the agenda? You're not reading into record anything until? Correct. Okay, thank you. Do board members have any adjustments? No, hearing none. Visitors and communication. Is there anyone here present tonight that wants to speak on anything other than what's on the agenda? Hearing none, then we will continue with old business to get that out of the way. Consideration of the minutes from August 1st, 2024. Do we have a motion on that? Motion to accept. Yeah, okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor say
Hold on,
Wait,
hold on.
I was thinking of the one before that. I wasn't at that one, I don't think.
Oh,
Are you withdrawing your motion?
Yeah,
So the motion's been withdrawn.
I'm sorry.
okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from August 1st.
I will second Sarah's motion.
All those in favor?
But I have something to
Yeah,
fix.
there actually was a couple corrections to those minutes. Did you catch that?
There was a typo on page 3. Up at the top, it says P. Anthony apologies for losing track, but I think it's supposed to say apologizes or apologized.
There's one here too. If you could.
And one on page 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, bullet down, the word refurbished is misspelled.
And I don't know, well, I guess I participated by Zoom. I didn't know that. Okay. All right, with those corrections, how does the board vote? To accept the motion?
Accept, yes.
All those?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Oh, hearing none. We will now request for reconsideration by Poulin for 58 Circle Street, curb cut variance. Do I have a motion on that?
I would make a motion to reconsider the request, the hearing. Make a motion to reconsider the decision for 58 Circle Street. I thought we needed a motion and then a second to discuss. A motion to open to, okay, sorry, thank you. Apologies, procedural stuff.
No, I thought that.
A motion to open discussion for reconsideration of the decision for 58 Circle Street.
I'll second that.
You'll second that. It's seconded by Kendall. All those in favor say aye or raise your hand, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Opposed? Okay, hearing none. The board will go into an open meeting and discussion of that request for reconsideration of 58 Circle Street. Any concerns, questions, comments, questions that would like to be asked? Krista?
None at this time.
Jamie?
I guess I just wanted to make sure that the person who was appealing the decision knew that we had approved a driveway that was much smaller than what it was in the actual application, including in what she submitted.
Right. Yes,
In the microphone.
yeah, because we can't hear you down there. Is that not?
This is just discussion to decide if it is worthy information to
Okay.
open the discussion, okay? So this is just to see if it's worthy to open the reconsideration.
Yeah, we won't be discussing anything that was discussed at the initial hearing. It's just her letter that was presented to the board. Sarah?
I would just say, I think, given the information provided, I think that this is worthy of reconsidering.
Kendall?
I agree. I agree that there's a few things on here that weren't brought up in the last meeting that needed to be.
Chris? I would agree. Okay, Jessica?
I agree, yeah.
Okay. All right, then, we will open new business. No? You have to forgive us because this is the first time that we've had to deal with a reconsideration of the board's initial decision. So we're kind of stumbling our way through this, so we apologize for that. Just bear with us a little bit. Go ahead, did you want to add something?
I'm going to make a motion to close discussion.
Hold on, we have a hand up on Zoom.
Who?
I don't know.
Andrea, you'll need to wait if you don't mind. We have to get through the initial reconsideration motion and discussion and so forth, and then we will call upon people who do wish to speak on this matter. Okay? Andrea?
She's muted.
You've got to unmute yourself at this point.
Let's just move on.
I'm trying.
That's okay. Yeah? Yeah,
Well, I was hearing some confusion, and I was just going to provide what I believe is that I believe there has to be a motion to reconsider and a second and a vote that affirms that in order to agree to move forward with reconsidering.
Yep, we haven't gotten that far
We
yet.
have, yeah, we haven't gotten to that point yet. We're just in the discussion phase of this right now. Okay?
All right.
Okay.
So the first motion would be to close the discussion on the reconsideration for 58 Circle Street.
Yes, and is there a second to that?
I'll second.
Krista seconds. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Raise your hand. Jessica?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Then we will open the new business in respect to,
Hold on, we got to do the motion to reconsider.
oh, do we have a motion to reconsider?
Sure.
Thank you, Jamie. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor say aye or raise your hand, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Then we open the new business. Okay.
We want to start with a motion to open the hearing. Starting with a motion to open the hearing.
Okay. Now we just need a motion to open the new business on the first agenda item, which is 58 Circle Street. Is there a motion?
I would make a motion to open the hearing for Luba Desatel, 58 Circle Street.
Is there a second?
I will second that.
Okay, thank you. Those in favor, raise your hand, please, or say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none. Okay, we will now open the new business about 7:15 PM. Is it Lubia Desitels? Lubier? 58
Luba.
Circle. Oh,
Luba
thank you.
Desatel.
Thank you. 58 Circle Street.
Correct.
Okay, so we will, and before we start the hearing, I want to know if there's any board members who, yeah, the start of this, who,
We don't have 9 board members.
okay. We do have 9 board members. There is 1 vacancy at this time, and there is 1 person who is absent tonight. It takes a minimum of 5 affirmative votes for an application to be approved. Those who are making applications do have the right to postpone the hearing if they want to have more members present. So I'm asking, I guess, who's going to be speaking for this primarily?
I will.
And would you state your name, please? State your
Lu-
name,
Luba Deshotel,
and thank you. And you reside at?
58 Circle Street, apartment
you.
1.
Thank you. And I'm just going to ask you to raise your right hand, please. Yeah, I saw him do that. Yes.
Swear 'em in all at once.
Oh, swear them all in at once. And you, sir, could you state your name for the record? Yeah.
This one over here.
Oh, I thought he raised his hand.
Right there.
Both of them want to speak, or? Do you, sir? You're going to let, okay. Okay, sir, would you state your name for the record? You can come up here if you wish, yes.
My name is Brian Zola, and I just live on 2 Green Street, right across the street.
Oh, okay. That's okay. Okay, could you give the address, though, if you would, please?
You did 2 Green Street.
2 Green Street.
Green Street.
Yep, 2 Green Street.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
And then you want to
I
swear them
gotta
both in.
I'm going to swear you both in then. If you'd raise your right hand, the testimony. Yeah, yeah. You swear, I'm swearing them in together, Michelle. Is that okay?
We need to get Andrea's name.
Andrea? Okay, Andrea. Yeah, okay.
She needs to state her name and her address.
What?
Andrea needs to state
She needs to what?
her name and address.
Yes,
for
right,
the
yeah.
record.
Andrea, if you would state your name for the record and also your address, please.
It's Andrea Poulin, 487 East Orange Road, Washington, Vermont, 05675.
Thank you. Now I'm going to ask all of you who are being sworn in at this time to raise your right hand. You swear the testimony you're about to present is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
I do.
Thank you. Okay. Who would,
Start with Luba. Luba? Start with Luba?
yeah, I would think so. Lubia, we will start with you.
Okay. Okay, so we moved in a few years ago, and we living there in apartment 1 and having tenants in apartment 2, we need access to the garage, which initially our tenant had it in the contract that they will have the driveway and they will be parking in the driveway, which is not convenient for us. We want access to our garage so we can park cars there in the winter and be able to use it. And to make it easier for them, we want to put a driveway so it's on their side of the street. And so, yeah, it's easy and convenient for all of us.
Thank you. Now, should we take her or should we take him?
Brian.
Brian, you want to step forward, please? So make sure we can all hear you. Thank you so much. Go ahead.
I'm just in here in support of Luba and Constantine. All they want is something simple here. They just want a driveway for their tenants. They just want to have access to their own garage. And it seems like, I wasn't here at the last meeting, but I don't know what, Andrea's issue is with them, but these people are only kind people and they would do anything for you. So I think Andrea is a little bit out of line. I'm not trying to cause any problems, but I guess she went in, was taking pictures and all that stuff. I mean, who does that? I mean, that's just un-American. And so I'm just asking that you really consider this, because all they want is a simple driveway, and to make their access easy, and to make the tenants' access easy, you know, so, I don't know, Andrea was saying something, it depreciates the value of her house, and it absolutely does not, because I live right across the street, and I see this every day, and I like Andrea very well, but, it's just, there's a little bit of tension here that just shouldn't be there. So I'm just asking that, you know, the kindness of your heart, just look and see what they want. It's nothing too big, and so I'm just asking you to, you know, approve this for them.
Okay,
It's as simple as that.
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, Andrea. Andrea?
Yep, there she is.
Okay.
Yeah, it takes a minute to unmute.
Oh,
Sorry.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that's why I don't like Zoom. Okay, go ahead.
So, in all honesty, I mean, I have nothing against the owners of the property. And I believe in being a good neighbor. I've had major concerns regarding the number of vehicles that were on the property. And I was advised to file a complaint. There were 5 unregistered, uninspected vehicles on the property. That is a major violation of city ordinances. So considering that 5 of the vehicles were not even drivable, it kind of lends to that perhaps there's not that many issues with the parking. And I do fear that actually the number of cars that were there constituted under Barre ordinances that property was being used as a salvage yard. That's not okay for me as a neighbor, and that does hurt the value of my property. I was concerned when they asked for a 20 by 60 additional driveway, because to me, I was fearing that look how many unregistered, uninspected vehicles they have. I'm concerned that they're just looking for more space to park more vehicles, because 20 by 60 is huge. And I know if everyone reads all of the information that I provided in my appeal, that there is plenty of parking. There are 2 in front of the steps in apartment 1, and then the other section of the driveway, there's enough parking for 6 to 8 cars. That driveway has been widened to be double what it was from many years ago. And what really needs to be understood is the statute that the DRB board is supposed to follow. And it states that all 5 conditions must be met. This is statute. This is the law. This is what the DRB board is required to go by. The first item in statute, it says there have to be unique physical circumstances or conditions, including irregularity, narrowness or shallowness of lot size or shape, or exceptional topographical or other physical conditions peculiar to that particular property, and that unnecessary hardship is due to these conditions. There is nothing about this property whatsoever that meets that very first requirement. There is ample parking, the lot is flat, there's just no way that number 1 is qualified for. Number 2 in the statute says because of these physical circumstances or conditions, and again, they do not exist, that there's no possibility that the property could be developed in strict conformity with the provisions of the bylaw. and that the authorization of variance is necessary. Number 3 of the 5 conditions talks about unnecessary hardship has not been created by the appellant. The appellant has chosen to have numerous cars on the lot. They have chosen not to limit the number of cars for their tenant. There's really nothing that is wrong with the property that prevents it from being used. And there is law and there are cases out there, and I pulled some of it today. It says variant, and this is from cases that have gone to environmental court and Supreme Court. Variances are not frequently granted. Variances by their nature contravene the goal of zoning. They are individual exceptions to generally applicable rules of zoning, the purpose of which is to bring property about the orderly physical development of the community. Variances act as an escape hatch from the literal terms of an ordinance, which, if strictly applied, would deny a property owner of all beneficial use of his land and thus amount to confiscation. Our current ordinance does not come close to confiscating their property or making it not being able to be reasonably used. And each of these things has cases cited with it. And it says securing a variance is therefore a difficult task. A landowner must demonstrate satisfaction of 5 separate statutory criteria. If just one criteria is unsatisfied, the variance must be denied. And that was confirmed at the Supreme Court. So I have other documentation with it too. But basically that protection is in there so that zoning ordinances are enforced and that exceptions aren't granted unless there is an absolutely essential reason that it has to be done. And I would request that the DRB board follow and comply with state statute, as I believe they're required to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Is anybody else in respect to this that wishes to speak? I don't know who Dupriya is.
Brian wanted to speak again. Brian
wants to speak.
again.
Okay, Brian?
So, Brian Zola again. They only had like 4 unregistered vehicles. They're all gone now. So they complied with everything that the board was asking. And the fire marshal's been all around yesterday, all day. And so, believe me, they're all gone. So they actually have done what they were supposed to do. And all those fancy words that Andrea was saying, I don't know what it is. There's something that she just, well, I don't know why it's going to affect her any at all, because it doesn't even touch her property. But the driveways are kind of side by side, and there is not a lot of room, like she was saying. So I'm no lawyer, but I don't have no fancy words, but I can see it right from my house, and they just don't have much of a driveway. And they just want a little driveway on the other side. It's not a big thing that's gonna go on in this town. So I don't know what the issue is. I mean, I have no vested interest in it either, but they just want a little access for their other tenant, because it's a rather good sized house. And he just wants access to his own garage. He can't even get to, Constantine can't even get to his own garage and work on his own cars. So what is he supposed to do? I mean, but it's already cleaned up. He's done exactly what they need to do. So all those words that Andrea was saying about, oh, this law, I don't care about that. It's just, these are nice people, and they just want something simple here. I can't sit back and listen to this. Something's got to be said. I mean, if you look and see in their driveway, he just wants access to his garage and have another simple driveway. It's nothing that's gonna, take all these huge bulldozers and all that, so that I would ask that you would consider, and even if you guys have to drive by and look at this situation, it's pretty simple, cut forward.
We've actually done that.
Yeah,
We
I mean,
have observed that.
so,
We do that with all applications, so
Yeah.
we have a better understanding.
But-
Yeah, and I think there's more to this than the number of vehicles,
yeah,
so,
so, okay.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak in respect to this reconsideration? Mr. or Mrs. Duprea? Are you on there, or is that you as well?
Actually, that is me, Andrea
Okay,
Pullen.
okay,
And
okay.
I
We just,
will say, and if it's all in what I put in writing in the packet, which I would like considered as part of the decision, is that at the last hearing, they did say the tenants park in the 2 spots that are closest to Circle Street. That means the long part of the driveway that can hold 6 to 8 cars is what they're using, and that's what's in front of their garage. So if the tenants are parking where they said they were parking, then the tenants are not blocking their access to the garage. And if they decide to let the tenants park in the other spot, again, that is something that they have caused. That's not something that the zoning ordinance has caused and making, an issue.
thank you. Linda, go ahead.
Luba.
Luba.
Great.
So before we bought the house, both apartments were rented. The garage was not used, was just for the owners, but it was empty. So it was not used at all. And so the way they distributed the parking was apartment 1 got those 2 spaces, and apartment 2 got the entire driveway. And that's how it was initially. And that's how it's been right now. We were only using we were limited to those 2 parkings, and everything else in the driveway is for the tenants. And we just want to be able to use the driveway, but we can't assign the tenants the spots right by because that would be considered our own little backyard or front yard. And so if they park there, we technically have no privacy, and we would like a little bit of it. And I think since we are paying and we are paying taxes, I think we're entitled to a little bit of something.
Thank you. If you would just place yourself back on mute, please. Okay, I will ask board members if they have any questions or questions, comments, whatever you'd like to, Ken,
No, I have no questions.
Katrina.
I have a question for Luba, or actually 2 questions. When the unit that you rent, is that the 2-bedroom apartment or the 3-bedroom apartment?
You mean the apartment 1 or 2?
I mean,
2.
the apartment that the tenants with all the cars are in.
Yes, it's 3 bedrooms.
It's a 3-bedroom apartment.
Yes.
And you made a reference to a contract that you made with those tenants about cars being able to park in the driveway. What exactly was that contract, and what was the amount of cars that contract included?
It's each person who has a driver license and lives there can drive, which at this time there would be 4 people.
Now, while that's what you have set up with the tenants, but that isn't consistent with what zoning allows. Zoning allows 1.4 parking spaces for a 3-bedroom apartment. So your contract is contrary to that zoning regulation. Would that be correct to say that?
We have not changed the contract. We have simply inherited the contract with buying the house. So whatever was there before, we haven't reconsidered that yet. We are leaving it as it was.
Okay, but I would raise the question, just in general, is that a legally binding contract if it goes against zoning ordinances?
Okay.
Do you want to respond to that, Linda or Rubia?
Is what are you saying, the people before me did something that they weren't supposed to do?
No.
That would appear to be the case in my mind. I don't know about in your case.
Yeah, I haven't questioned what they did so far, so I assumed that if I don't make any changes, that they did it the way they were supposed to, and that's why I kind of left it the way it was without making major changes.
Well,
But I can look into it, but I assumed everything was according to the way it was supposed to be.
well, the way it was with the previous owner, certainly, but that appears to be in contrast with zoning regulations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So you're saying that there's only allowed one car for 3-bedroom apartment?
One car per unit plus 0.2 for each bedroom in excess of 1 unit. So that would be 1.4 for a 3-bedroom unit. That's all.
Thank you.
Can I respond to that?
Yes, go ahead.
I just wanted to point out that the zoning currently requires at least 1.4 parking spaces for a 3-bedroom unit. It does not limit the number of spaces
okay.
available for a unit. That's how I'm reading it.
You have to have at least that.
Okay.
Yeah.
At least.
Yep.
Well, they do have at least that. Pardon me, Lubia.
Thank you. Sarah, do you have?
I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
Krista?
I just have one question, and just for clarity, the location of the entrance into the garage is at the end of the driveway? The long driveway?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I have, thank you.
Jamie?
Thank you.
No? Jessica?
No, I don't have any additional questions. No.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Is there anything further the board wants to, or anybody who is speaking on this application? Is there anything further anybody wishes to provide? Okay, hearing none, then
Motion to close.
I would request a motion to close this part of the hearing.
I make the motion.
Thank you. Kendall makes a motion.
Second?
And Sarah seconds. All those in favor say aye or raise your right hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Jessica. Hearing none, then the motion carries. And this will close this part of the hearing at approximately 7:36 PM. Thank you. Okay, we do go into deliberative session at the end of this.
Yeah, you can let them know that.
Okay, for the parties involved, the board will go into deliberative session at the end of our meeting here and make a decision, and you will be notified in writing within a week or 2 weeks, or you can call Michelle. When should they call you, Michelle?
The afternoon tomorrow, I'm out in the morning.
Okay, in the afternoon tomorrow or anytime thereafter, and she will give you the board's decision. Thank you all for being here tonight, and if there's nothing further, you're excused.
You can stay,
Thank
but.
You can
don't-
stay if you
don't-
like, if you
You
want
don't
to.
have to.
You want to
The
sit
answer at
on
the
the next
end.
one?
Will you be recording when you make your decision?
It's gonna be, maybe not though. Okay. You wish to stay or?
It's gonna be quick.
No?
Will you
Okay.
be recording the end of the meeting when you come out of deliberative session?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah, I was, and is she gonna sign off or? She doesn't have to? Okay, she can stay. Okay,
So now we need a motion to enter the next hearing.
okay. Let me,
So I would make a motion to open the hearing for Emily Medley and Pavel, I'm going to say this wrong, I'm so sorry. Cherkasov, for 821 North Main Street. Is there a second?
I'll second.
okay, there is a second, motion made and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Raise your hand.
Aye.
Those opposed, hearing none. Then the board will open the hearing on that application. Who is here to speak on behalf of that? Yes, please, step forward, yeah. And I already swore him in.
Yeah.
Oh, I swore Brown, oh, I swore that. Sir, would you state your name for the record,
My
please?
name is Pavel Cherkasov,
And your residence, please.
821 North Main.
Thank you. And if you'd raise your right hand, please. You swear the testimony you're about to present is the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. We do have your application in front of us, but go ahead, and if you want to add anything to it.
I don't have.
And I did speak before about not having a full board here.
Okay.
So you're,
I don't have any objections, and I don't have anything to add. That was already stated before.
you're willing to proceed then?
Yes.
Thank you. Go ahead.
So do I have to proceed or?
Yeah, and
Yeah,
No, nothing to add.
you want to expand on anything that you did provide?
No, I mean, if you have questions, I don't have anything to add because I've been already here, and I think,
Okay,
there were some questions.
okay,
and
this is
I-
just your opportunity if something has.
No, nothing additional, nothing changed since then, so I think it's all,
Okay. Thank you. Board members have any questions or comments? We'll start with you, Jamie. No? Krista?
None.
Sarah?
none, thank you.
Kendall? Katrina, getting off easy here. Jessica?
No, I don't.
And I have none. Okay, well, this is easy for you. Sorry you had to, maybe we should have started with you.
I would make a motion to close the hearing.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, then the hearing is closed. And again, I will state to you that the board will go into deliberative session, make a decision, and you will be informed by a letter within 2 weeks. According to Michelle, she needs 2 weeks. And, or you can call her in the afternoon or anytime thereafter tomorrow.
And you'll sign that if it is.
Okay, yes, I will.
yes.
Do I need to do it now? Nope. Okay. Okay, yeah, because I don't want to hold these folks up any longer than necessary. Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you for looking.
You're welcome.
Thanks for your patience.
Fortunately, his was easy.
Yes.
Okay. Now, is there a motion to open the Capital Candy Company application?
I'll make a motion to open the Capital Candy.
Okay.
And I'll second that motion.
Kendall seconds it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Hearing none. Okay, the Capital Candy Company, Inc., 20 Burnham Street, continued, seeks conditional use approval for demolition of historic building, special flood hazard area in zoning district. Something I was going to add to that, but I forget what it was. Okay, who is here to speak on behalf of that? Okay, okay. What's that? Okay, is there anybody who was ex parte, had any contact or wants to provide any additional information in respect to this application? Michelle? Okay, please do. You can do, yeah, you do that.
Everybody can hear me okay? Fabulous. The first one is Ken and Linda on 8/8/24. They met with George Burns, owner of Capital Candy. They identified themselves as on the DRB, asked to see inside of the round granite shed. Mr. Burns permitted that request and accompanied us. I'm reading it directly. I'm going to read it word for word, folks. So it's not me when I say this. Us to the building. Mr. Burns talked about his and his family's ownership of Capital Candy and indicated Round Granite Shed was operational during part of the time he has owned Capital Candy. The building appears to be structurally sound, wide wooden beams throughout, in good condition, an existing revolving crane, elevated railroad type track with cart, old work boots and shoes hanging on the wall. We indicated we felt like a step back in history and could almost picture it in operation. There was a slight buildup of mud on floor due to recent flooding. Building appeared to be used for storage, mostly small metal pipes scattered about. We did not tour all of the inside due to contents stored on floor. Mr. Burns indicated that the building had been damaged by fire, flooding, but withstood all of it. Mr. Burns advised his business had no use for the building, thus the request to demolish it and the attached structure, which had served as offices. That structure is in very bad shape. Mr. Burns indicated it had made some efforts to contact Vermont Granite Museum, Vermont Historical Society, but didn't get any response. Mr. Burns contacted Messier Moving to see if building could be relocated. It was told he was told the building would have to be disassembled. He explored it no further. Mr. Burns indicated he recognized DRB decision could go either way, and he had no problem with that. We indicated perhaps the round granite shed could remain with the office building being demolished, perhaps to allow a wider search for interest in preserving this, in our opinion, very unique piece of Barre and Vermont's history. He felt there really hadn't been much information about this building provided to Barre citizens and organizations. I, Linda, indicated I had lived in Barre almost my whole life and didn't even know of this building or its historical importance, and one of a kind of architect built and designed by Barre's first mayor. Second document from Jamie Bauer from the DRB committee here. And this is in regards to 20 Burnham Street. Discussion with colleagues who also provided letters regarding this case. I am going to butcher this name and I really feel bad.
Laura Trishman.
Thank you. State Historic Preservation Officer for Vermont. Colleague Corkins, Tax Credit and Grants Manager, Division of Historic Preservation. In their discussion that they had a few years ago, former Representative Peter Anthony toured a group inside the building to try to assess what could be done. The previous building owner let them have access. The building was deteriorating at the time. There are state and federal funds for repairing historical buildings, but not to move them. The building would need to be assessed to see if it can be moved and if it can maintain its status on the National Registry. State funding is 10% tax credit for historic buildings in designated downtowns. 20 Burnham Street is not the designated downtown. However, the Regional Planning Commission are remapping districts and the status could change. Federal funds and FEMA could assist with rehabbing the building and doing flood mitigation. How the federal tax credit works: 1, 20 Burnham is eligible. 2, 20% federal income tax credit. 3, property must be used for a commercial purpose. 4, the repairs must be substantial and meet historical standards. Most desirable option for historic preservation, the owner withdraws the request to demolish the property and rehabs it to historical standards. Less desirable option for historic preservation, number one, continue the case to provide time to do the following. A, talk to the state floodplain manager about how the building and/or land could be used. They can also inform the owner how to mitigate flooding with or without the building. B, assess resources available and do a cost and feasibility analysis. C, professionally document conditions by an architectural historian or cultural resource firm. Least desirable option for historic preservation, approve the demolition request with the provision that the owner must professionally document conditions by an architectural historian or cultural resources firm before the demolition.
Michelle, were they provided copies of these?
They may not have been, but they're there in the back of the room.
Okay. Okay, thank you, thank you. Just wanted to be sure. Okay, would you like to speak on behalf of the? Yeah. I do need to swear you both in. If you would both state your name for the record. Mr. Anthony, could you wait just a second? Thank you. I'm sorry, go ahead. State your name. Okay, and you, sir? And your place of residence? Berlin. Okay, you, ma'am? Okay, thank you. We asked for that so you can be notified in writing by Michelle. And if you would raise your right hand, please.
Do Peter Anthony too.
Huh?
Do Peter Anthony too.
Oh, and Mr. Anthony, I'm sorry, go ahead, go ahead. Would you state your name for the record, please?
Peter Anthony, I'm a resident of the North End in the city of Barre for 46 years.
Okay, thank you. Now, if you all three would raise your right hand, you swear the testimony you're about to present is the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you very much. We can start with you, sir, and you, ma'am? Oh, I'm not supposed to use those terms. Could you just step up to the microphone, whichever one of you wishes to speak? You want Mr. Anthony to begin? Sure. Peter, would you just step up to the microphone, please? Makes it easier for the folks on Zoom to hear. That's me.
You have questions? I have nothing new to report. I did meet with Mr. Messier as I had hoped to. I had a brief conversation with Mr. Burns. I also had some advice from the mayor to contact John Rogers, who purportedly does the same type of business as Mr. Messier, that is to say, trying to save structures by moving them. Unfortunately, this is a bad time of the year for contractors of that kind of work. And unfortunately, I realize that you folks want to dispose of this. I only heard about it 2 days before your August meeting. I came as promptly as I could, and I tried as best as I could to enlighten myself as to what the practicality of removing the structure was. Since my understanding, I don't want to speak for the applicant, but my understanding is that they would prefer not to try to use the structure in place. But again, you should ask for them to confirm that. That's the impression I got, which left us few alternatives at the moment, other than simply, if you will, allowing time to explore the alternative options. I'm happy to come back if you have any questions for me, but alas, I tried but failed to meet with the movers who are capable of doing something about it, and also outlining the financial commitment that it would take. Thank you.
Members have questions of Mr. Anthony? Yeah, Mr. Anthony, the board members may have, but just a second, sir. Couple questions or a question to ask you.
So your letter dated August 20th, you said you had not heard back on the challenges of dismantling it from house movers. Have you heard anything back from them on that?
That question's for you, Mr. Anthony.
Yeah,
I
Mr.
apologize. No, I'm
yeah.
sorry.
No, that's
I thought I
okay.
was clear. I had not
Oh.
heard back from either Mr. Rogers
Right, yeah,
or
he
Mr.
didn't,
Messier,
right, yeah.
who I was told were the two competent people who could tackle that.
And my second question is, you CC'd a bunch of people on your letter. Did you receive any information or responses from them? So like it's CC'd, Senator Watson, Representative Williams, Mr. Burns. Did anybody contact you and express concerns
No.
that were in your, okay.
I'm not sure which letter you're reading from.
It's the one that you gave to me for the, you dropped off and.
To the council?
The one that
Oh.
you sent to council and gave to me.
Yeah, it's addressed to council and the mayor.
Yeah, I did copy my colleagues, but it was really addressed to the mayor and council.
All right, thank you. That's all.
Any other member have any questions of Mr. Anthony? Jessica? Any questions for Mr. Anthony?
Well, it was very insightful, the additional documents you provided, and I read Mr. Anthony's letter. If they are able to disassemble it, because Capital Candy didn't indicate, Mr. Burns, that he was opposed if it were able to be done, and he didn't indicate a time frame, like a deadline or so, he wouldn't be opposed to it being disassembled and moved. Would the Granite Museum be able to accommodate it if they were able to move it over there? Mr. Anthony?
I can't speak for the board in the sense that there has been no motion. We did meet last week, and the issue of do we have the acreage, the answer is yes. The question is whether it's feasible as a financial matter and what the time frame is. Given our fall, like I'm sure Capital Candy is very busy. We have a granite festival in 5 weeks, and so a lot of things will happen before winter on the property.
Okay,
you.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, we'll give you the opportunity to, if you wish to add anything or respond to what's been presented so far.
I don't think our position has changed much. We contacted Connor Contracting. We have a letter from him in with our paperwork. It's, the building is in rough shape. It's still in the floodplain.
Okay,
Obviously, we, if somebody wanted the building, we're not trying to, we'd be happy to.
okay. Board members, questions, comments? Katrina, Ken? No. Sarah?
I just had a quick question. Do you know who owned the building when the fire happened?
I don't know.
What year? They did state the year, didn't they, on the fire or not? I thought I saw a date that,
No, those were
In
additions.
the last meeting, I said it was in the 60s. That's to the best of my knowledge, and it's just from old timers talking.
Okay.
So I don't have just hearsay.
Yeah, that's fine.
do you know, ma'am, would you know when the fire?
It was in the 60s, it might have been Savard.
Okay.
Oh, okay,
It was still the granite company back then.
okay, thank you.
And I think you had mentioned this the last time, but I'm not recalling. Do you know if there's like any asbestos or anything in the building?
Yeah, there's significant.
Okay, I thought so.
In the round, yeah, I think I saw that, but in the round granite shed or in the attachment?
Funny, this is a 500-page report. So I think there was window glazing that had asbestos in it. I think there was shingles that some of it was sided with that had asbestos. Certainly the office, there was linoleum that had asbestos. There was a lot of, it's throughout the building.
Including the round granite shed part?
I think that there's one part of it that was shingled, and I think there were asbestos shingles. It's siding that was used as shingles, and I believe that was on the round part.
And the shingles are still there, was that part that was, okay.
That's all the questions I had. Thank you.
Krista?
I'm assuming, because I don't know, it's more expensive to demolish something that does have asbestos in it?
Yeah, so we had a study done by Catamount Environmental. They wouldn't have changed. It was probably 3 or 4 years ago. I could provide it. It's a lengthy document, but it is available. We tested it for whatever, you know, they didn't test for it to be able to.
I have no other questions.
Jamie?
Yeah, would you consider it a hardship to have to hold on to the building a little bit for some folks to be able to assess funding and resources and feasibility to be able to save it or move it?
I'm not sure how to answer that. I'm not sure I would call it a hardship. You know, we have fears of like arson and stuff in Barre, so this building that we don't have a good way of keeping people out of, it's not doing anybody any favors while we just wait for it to, you know, ultimately fall down or something. But it's not something we know, we have a fear of, you know, we have a legitimate fear of that, and given the situation.
Other liability concerns?
Well, it'd be liability, yeah, it'd be quite a thing, right? I mean, you know.
So had any thought been given to leaving the round granite shed standing until perhaps some further exploration could be made, and then demolishing the attached building?
Well,
'Cause
I don't think we're unreasonable, so I mean, I think if we could proceed at least the end of it. I'm not sure how the building would take that. It's funny, the end of the building has been removed. I know some of you walked through it, I can't remember who, but, I mean, there's a part that just isn't there anymore. It's being held up by the newer structure, so, I mean,
it looked like the beams, Kendall, you can speak to that because you know more about the structure than I would know. The inside of the building did not look like it was any you know, it looked like it was a pretty sturdy building, and the outside leaves something to be desired, but I mean, that building has survived floods, fire, and the heavy snows that we experience here, where a lot of other buildings have been washed away very easily by the recent flooding. That building still stands. To me, that says something. They don't make them like they used to. Okay, yeah, and I understand that those beams are oversized, actually, and were all hand hewn. And you don't see that anymore either. And it's my understanding that this building is the only one of its kind built like that. And you know, Vermont, the granite center of the, you know, the world or the country, is such a piece of history that I can't imagine anybody in Barre, Vermont, especially, would like to see that. Even a grant writing or fundraising or GoFundMe page or advertising nationally, people would be swarming here to try to save that building. I'm convinced of it. I understand where you're coming to from a business standpoint, don't get me wrong, but I just think something like that is really too valuable to lose.
Is that building insured as part of your property insurance? Okay.
Good question. Anything further from anybody?
Jessica?
Oh, yeah, Jessica, just a second, please. Go ahead. Yes, please come forward, and I would ask you to speak up a little bit because it's really hard to hear.
I'm Prudy Burns, Prudy Fisher Burns. I was born and raised in Barre. My whole life was spent in Barre, and I'm a third-generation granite worker. I've spent 27 years in the shed etching, the only member of my family of 3 with 2 boys and myself. I was the one that went into the granite business. So I don't take this lightly. My father had a shed, a small shed in the horseshoe part of that Burnham Meadow in the 50s, late 40s and early 50s. And I understand, this has been going on for years. I mean, this is not a new thing. We have been trying to see if somebody would take this building for years. I called the Shelburne Museum. They had no interest. They said, you know, it's nice, it's a good idea, but there's a limited amount of money that anybody can put into this. Scott McLaughlin, and I think Peter was actually on the board even then. You've been on that board for years and years, Peter. You know, he said, we'd love to have it, but the financial feasibility of reconstructing it and maintaining it is more than what the board was willing to take on. And I understand that. I mean, it would be wonderful to be able to save that building, but it gets to the point where it's getting more and more deteriorated. And, you know, I hate to see something happen to it, but you can't save everything. And there's a reason why they don't build round sheds anymore, okay? Quite frankly. My uncle was mayor of Barre several years. So we invest in Barre tremendously, our company. And there is nothing there is probably very few things in this area that we have not contributed to in terms of being generous and concerned about the community. My husband was born and raised in Montpelier. So it isn't taken lightly, but how many years do we have to hold on to something like this before it goes the way of Bonacorsi and arson? And, I think sometimes you have to face reality. That building is 6 to 6'6" lower than the current road level. That whole plane was all built on grout, okay? And so there's a point where I think you just can't resurrect stuff. Messier, when he came the first time to look at it with my husband, said because of the bridges in Barre, you can't transport the thing intact. It has to be dismantled and reassembled piece by piece, which is incredibly expensive. And, there is a lot of fire damage in that shed. There's much more than you realize. There's asbestos everywhere in that. I mean, it's a pretty gruesome place to be. I mean, even when the guys worked there, and I had a small shed in the back end of Capital Candy where I loaded and unloaded my own granite and did my etching, okay? And even then, that shed was barely workable. It just is, it's a shame, but we can't use it. And no one seems to want it. So how long do we have to hold on to it? I mean, in reality, it's been going on for years.
Thank you.
And that's all that I have to say. I mean, I certainly have a vested interest in this community, and I would not want to, I mean, I just think that you have to actually look at the reality of the situation and the financial commitment that it would take and whether it's feasible. And time, these are hard times in Barre, for sure. And asking more money for something like this is a lot harder, I mean, isn't there a better place to put it?
Thank
So
you.
that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jessica, did you have some questions that you'd like to ask?
No, that was very thoughtful, Mrs. Burns, what you said. And they're good points, practical points. It's just that based on what we've read about the building and its history and significance, the only one in the nation, it is truly worth, in my opinion, of course, I'm not the one footing the bill and everything, but it's truly worth discovering more and researching more about perhaps disassembling it, the roof, taking off the roof first. They do it with ancient covered bridges. And there are contractors possibly that would be able to disassemble it and move it to the Granite Museum, which I understand, I think Peter Anthony said they would like it if it's able to be moved to there. But if you had only talked to Messier regarding it, and then you had a phone call in, I think, to another one, but hadn't had
No,
them,
Peter had that.
you didn't have a discussion with you talked to Messier movers, but hadn't talked to another company, or I'm not sure about that. Messier said it would have to be disassembled, but they didn't say they weren't capable of doing it. At least part of it, or a large part of it, the round part of it.
No, but this was years ago as well, and it's deteriorated significantly since then. And I guess my question is, in all honesty, how much time do you think? I mean, it seems like there should be some sort of a realization that this has been going on for years, not just this year, not just this time. And nobody has seemed to take an interest in doing it until we get to the point where we want to do something with the building because it's there and it just doesn't make sense to just leave it there and have it tumble into the ground, which it will at some point, or be a product of vandalism or arson, which will also endanger our big building. I mean, if you want to look at preservation, Capital Candy was Camoli Granite Company, okay? One of the oldest and finest granite companies in the world. And it was my husband's family that saved that when all the other sheds in the area were being torn down. So it isn't that we aren't interested in doing everything that we can, but there comes a point when reality is Scott McLaughlin said, we'd love to have it, but even if we could do that, move it over here, it's the maintenance of it that requires continuous support, financial support. So, I think it's unfair for people to say, well, let's give it more time. I mean, how much time do you think we need to give it?
I would just point out that this has only come to our attention for a month.
Well, we went years ago.
And I understand that. There's been no documentation of the efforts made previously, so we only have the information provided to us to go off of.
I understand that, sure.
So just wanting to point that out on the record, but yeah.
And I've been a resident of Barre City my whole life, and we do recognize the contribution that your family has made to the city of Barre. I used to live across the street from your grandfather, according to Mr. Burns. So I've known the family for years.
From who?
Pardon?
From what? Who did you live
On
with?
Elm Street in Montpelier. I
Oh,
think he said.
that was, George Burns, yeah.
So I personally am well aware of the Burns.
I thought so. Are you?
Yeah.
You are who I think you are,
Yeah,
yes.
so we don't in any way want you to
No,
think
and I
that we
understand
don't.
that, but I just want to point out that this was, we talked about, could we put offices in there? Could we do this? Could we do that? It just wasn't feasible. It just doesn't make sense for us. So.
And see, that's information that we really have never had. A lot of us, like we said previously, didn't even know that round granite shed existed. And I bet if you walked the street of Barre, they'd say, what? Because the people I've talked with, and my brother-in-law was in the granite industry, never heard of it. So I think the shame is that initially there wasn't some involvement before the building got to the point that it is at now. So just so you understand, we know you're not taking this lightly. And we certainly aren't either. So I think we're all, wanting to do the right thing here. So is there anything further anybody like to add? No? Okay.
Would just like to thank Mrs. Burns for providing that information that it would have been nice to have that historical information sooner.
Absolutely. I would have loved it if you would have come last meeting.
Yeah. Do we need a motion to go out? Yep. Okay, then at this time, we're going to request a motion to close this part of the hearing. Is there a motion?
So moved
Okay,
to
Sarah?
close the hearing.
Sarah?
I'll
is it?
second.
And Krista is seconding. Raise your hand, say aye. If you.
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, hearing none, then this hearing is closed, or this part of the hearing is closed at 8:15. And we thank you very much for being here. And I stated earlier to the previous applicants that we will go into deliberative session, make a decision. You'll be receiving a letter within 2 weeks, and you can call Michelle tomorrow afternoon or anytime thereafter. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yes.
We have to make a motion to go into.
Jamie, do you want to wait until we do a motion to go into
Where's
deliberative?
Jamie going?
She's got to pee.
She's gonna pee? Oh, go pee.
Hold on.
She would have been here, or if George would have showed up, it would have been, it might have been a whole different.
Okay, all right. Can she hold it then?
Yes, I'll be
Okay,
fine.
all right, because I couldn't sometimes. The board will,
Our point was.
the board will now make a motion to go into deliberative session. Is there a motion?
I'll motion to go into deliberative session.
I'll make a second and a friendly amendment to include the, what's your title? Zoning? Permanent administrator.
Who?
I accept.
I made a friendly amendment to include the permit administrator
Oh,
in our
good,
deliberative
okay,
session.
okay, thank you, thank you.
So that's part of the motion now.
Okay, and there was a second.
Yes.
Okay,
me.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? All right, the board will now go into deliberative session at 8:15 PM. And Michelle, oh, I thought he was done.
Who was against it kept reconsidering, so that's why the rule is the way it is.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
Michelle, we're going into deliberative session. If you would join us and then stop the recording, please.
Motion to exit deliberative session.
Is there a second on
I
that?
second.
All those in favor say aye, raise your hand.
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing none, the board is now out of deliberative session at 9:08 PM. Okay, now, motions. Oh,
first we
oh, first, before we do go into making the motions on the 3 applications here, I inadvertently forgot to ask that certain letter presented to the board for the Capital Candy Barre Historical Society should have been read into the record when we were considering that application. So, Michelle, if you would do that now, please.
Sure. This is from the Barre Historical Society, Inc. Dear Barre citizens, at the monthly meeting of the Barre Historical Society Board of Directors last evening, we discussed the prospective demolition of the historic E.L. Smith granite shed. The board members came to agreement and by consensus recommend to you, the Developmental Review Board of the City of Barre, that the E.L. Smith granite shed not be demolished but be preserved. Members of the board are aware of the difficulties of preserving the historic plant, including the possible removal of the shed from its current original location to a new one elsewhere in the city. We also understand that time has not been kind to the building and would require considerable restoration. We are in agreement that the E.L. Smith granite shed, which is listed on the National Registry of Historic Places, maintained by the National Park Service of the Department of the Interior, is unique and deserving of protection. Its innovative 16-sided structure and related granite manufacturing equipment, all designed to benefit from the circular design of the shed, constitute the one and only representative of a distinctive granite manufacturing plant. Our experience restoring the Socialist Labor Party Hall, a National Historic Landmark, continues to educate us about the challenges of owning and maintaining a vintage property. And we are aware of the hard work involved, but also of the rewards which provide a lasting benefit to the community. Barre has a worthy reputation for the preservation of buildings of significance such as ours. Residents and visitors alike admire the city's remarkable properties, from its superb cemeteries to its public buildings, among them the Vermont Historic Center, formerly Spalding High School, the Vermont Granite Museum, and Studio Place Arts. Together, they make the city so memorable. We urge you to protect the E.L. Smith granite shed for future generations to admire and from which to take inspiration. Truly yours, Karen Lane, Vice President.
Thank you.
When you get up, can you, do we need to open that door? Just thinking we're in public session again. Just in case.
Okay, a motion for the 858 Circle Street. Is there a motion on that application, Sarah?
I would make a motion to decline the application as presented. It does not meet the criteria to provide the variance.
I'll second Sarah's motion.
Any discussion on the motion that was just made? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Raise your hand.
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing none, then the application is denied. The second one, 821 North Main Street, is there a motion on that? Somebody can?
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Jessica.
What? Oh, I make a motion to approve the final plan for Medley and Sure.
Thank you.
81
North
Yeah,
Main.
thank you. Is there a second on that?
I'll second it.
Okay. You get that, Michelle? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, that application is approved unanimously. Capital Candy Company, do we have a motion on that? Sarah?
I would make a motion to deny the application as presented, stating that it does not meet the criteria for historic demolition. And I've lost my paper. It's here somewhere. Specifically, from 2202G, criteria 1E, which states that the demolition is not to solely for creating more parking. I really lost my paper. Where'd it go?
I don't know if that helps you.
Here it is. No, it's not. Sorry, I'm sorry.
That's okay. She said take our time.
Yeah,
Is
I
it this one?
just had it.
Oh, no, that isn't it.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so specifically from 2202G 1E, the demolition is not primarily intended to allow development of additional surface parking. The applicant has stated that they are planning to use that space for additional parking and widened driveways. Also to include that the other pieces that have not been met are sorry, I had this in my head and now it's not.
Take your time.
B and C, due to the fact that they have not provided enough documentation to satisfy those criteria.
Did you get that, Michelle?
That's not a, is that still 2202?
Yes.
Michelle. Yeah, that
Let me restate that. So the motion is to deny the application of 20 Burnham Street for the demolition of the round barn for the reason of not meeting criteria 2202G. Criteria 1E specifically, the demolition is not primarily intended to allow development of additional surface parking. The applicant has specifically stated they're planning to use that space for additional parking and widened driveways. Additionally, 2202G 1C or B and C, feeling that the applicant has not provided enough documentation to satisfy those criteria.
There's only one correction. You said the round barn. Maybe we should specify it's the round
The entire building,
granite shed.
the granite shed.
Yeah, right.
Sorry, thank you.
No, that's okay,
So now we need a second.
because we were calling it the round barn.
I second.
Okay, any further discussion on the motion?
I have a,
Okay,
if I were Capital Candy and I get this rejection, the first thing if the first thing is about you're creating a parking lot, they might just laugh at that. I think that, because, okay, we're demolishing the building. I think their statement of, we'll use it for parking is, if I tore down a building, I might just think that, as opposed to the other criteria that have been enumerated.
But they,
Does anybody agree with that?
well, they didn't explain, I mean, they never, didn't explore any other use of that.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
right off the bat, we're tearing this down, we need parking. They really didn't explore or say, well, we'll turn it into green space, or we'll turn it into a, you know, a place for the employees to have lunch or something.
Yeah,
It was specifically the parking.
I know, but
And I
that
think
was,
you referenced
that's
something
the
that said you
expedient-
can't do that.
that's their expediency.
That's is it a
Mindset.
statute?
It's in the, yeah.
It's in the statute as a reason,
No, it's a
ordinance.
good point. Yeah,
Excuse me, ordinance.
yeah.
It's in the ordinance that for them to be able, for us to be able to approve a demolition of a historic building, that the demolition is not primarily intended to allow development of additional surface parking. And I feel that the applicant has not met that criteria. In addition to criteria 1B and C from the same ordinance, thank you, not providing enough documentation to satisfy those specific criteria.
My point just is the lack of documentation could go first before and besides, you're talking, changing it into a parking lot when that's a criteria, a no.
I just think that the one about
It's
parking is
fine.
the strongest
I would agree.
reason,
I agree.
Okay.
so.
Okay, any further discussion in respect to the motion? Hearing none,
So again, the motion is to deny the application
is
for
there?
those reasons.
I'm sorry. Is there a second?
I'll
No,
second
we've
it.
already said.
Oh, we already
Jessica
did
already
it.
seconded it.
Okay, okay, I'm sorry.
I'm just was restating the
Okay, yeah, we were
motion.
just, yeah,
Okay.
we were discussing the motion that was presented. Yes, thank you. All those in favor of the motion, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Application is approved unanimously.
Denied.
I'm sorry.
Denied.
Denied.
Got that,
Denied.
Michelle?
Denied.
I got you.
Denied unanimously.
It's late.
Thank you. Okay, then this closes out.
I would like, oops, I would like to skip roundtable if we may.
Yeah, I think so. Krista, what? I was
I was
gonna
gonna say, we have to make a motion to adjourn.
Go for
Yes.
it.
I make
Yeah.
a motion to adjourn.
I second it.
Okay.
All right,
Everybody in
done.
favor of that?
You don't have to
Yes.
vote on it.
Aye.
Okay. All right, meeting is adjourned at 9:20 PM.
I just
Thank
stopped
you
your
all.
recording,
You did it.
Thank
Michelle.
you, bye,
We did,
bye.
yes, and thank you for your prompting, because it's hard to keep
It's so hard.
everything.
Now, this was